Hello.
Hello. It's Friday afternoon, so that's podcasting time.
TGIF.
Yes. And today I want to start off talking about one of my favorite things to discuss, which is synchronicities or whatever you want to call them.
We love
Coincidences.
synchronicities over here.
Yes. We're just a font of constant coincidences. But anyway, since it's related to what I'm reading, I figured, we could start with that. But so the other day I was asked who my favorite author is, and I have never really been able to answer that question. I don't know. Can you?
Right.
Do you know the answer to that?
No.
It changes for me.
And I mean, if you had asked me when I was a kid, I would have been like, J.K. Rowling, no question. But yeah, no, I'm kind of the same way with favorite kind of music. Favorite anything, really. I have a hard time with favorite anything. Let's just say that.
Yeah, like I don't have a favorite food or even type of food or color or
depends on the day. That's my answer.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that just means that we're unhinged, but don't
tell anyone.
I prefer to be complicated.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Let's go with that. And complicated in a fun way. Mysterious way.
Right, yeah. Complicated can have a bad connotation, but not in our case.
Right.
So I was asked, a favorite author. And so I kind of actually had to kind of think about it for a minute. And then I thought, well, for most of my adult life, I would have just said Paul Auster, who I studied years ago. And so still actually like the feeling that I had reading the first novels of his, where it just felt like I was discovering something amazing.
Oh, that's the best.
And and I was young, and so it was like, and he is a famous author, but he's not a James Patterson type, so
right.
It wasn't something that was frequently discussed, anyway. So it was like a little, these nuggets of something that were special.
Right.
And so I had that on my mind, but not really, because it was just kind of in passing. And then I see a friend's post on Facebook, and it has a quote from Paul Auster, but it's not even, first of all, that's pretty obscure. I don't know. Yeah. But it wasn't someone who, I had known enjoyed his work or anything like that.
Right.
And it was just on some posts about that she visited Nacogdoches and for some reason quoted Paul Auster. So I was like, well, that's a strange coincidence that I'm thinking about. I mean, this.
Again, if anyone quoted James Patterson at any point,
I wouldn't don't think see twice. Very often, actually.
Right. I was about to say, I can't even imagine what that would look like. But I still would, if I did think twice, it wouldn't be because he was the person, because he's everywhere. I think I made the joke that I could point at any book and the chances of it being a James Patterson book are pretty high.
Yeah, exactly. Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
But yeah, he's very prolific.
Absolutely.
And most people have read at least one of his books.
Right.
Even me. And
me. What do you know?
He's gotten to all of us. But so I asked my favorite author, kind of remember like an obscure detail, and then see this post, and then I'm reading a book that same night, and it's a new book that's just come out that I'll be talking about today, and or it's coming out soon, and he quotes Paul Auster in it, and I was just like, okay, what is the meaning of this? Yeah, right. And so, and that's the thing about that sort of thing, and that's sort of the thing about these books that I'm going to talk about today, is that they leave you with that feeling of there has to be some sort of meaning in it, but there's not. Yeah. There's no way you can make a meaning come from that, and so that feeling is kind of unsettling or
Yeah,
uncanny
I was about
or
to say I can't decide if I like that idea or hate that idea
yeah. And
of yeah.
it becomes like an obsessive thing if you think about it.
Yes, it's an exciting feeling, but kind of knowing that there's I don't know, not an ending, not an answer. Yeah. What do you do with that?
I
Go
know.
crazy, I
And
guess.
my sister makes her art about that topic, and I have talked to other people, and there's quite a number of people that have those experiences pretty frequently.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned one, and I've had the same thing. In fact, probably the most creeped out I've ever been was about that whole thing is like in the shower, just like thinking somebody's name, like
Yeah.
a famous name, really clearly in my head for no reason,
Uh-huh.
and then getting out of the shower, and then there's that name,
Yes.
and it was just like, wow,
Yeah. What does this mean? And it's not always something that I would think would hold meaning. I don't know.
right,
It's usually something super mundane. Yeah.
yeah,
Nothing that holds a big place in my life or heart.
exactly, yeah. It's not like I'm gonna find that there's some import and that, oh, Paul Auster died yesterday and that he was
Right.
reaching to you through the cosmos or something,
And that happened at the moment of death.
exactly. But and the same thing with, like silly things like hearing somebody's name, but it was it's just like a
It
little
is.
jolt.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the book that I'm reading that does have that quote in it is called Maxwell's Demon by Stephen Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been hoping for a book from him for years now because he wrote a book called Raw Shark Texts. I want to say it's 10 years ago, maybe more. And they're both. They really embrace the element of the uncanny or the
Uh-huh.
just to make you think about how weird life really is, right?
Yep.
Just
Yep.
in the universe and our place in it. And so in Maxwell's Demon, I won't go into great detail, but he does talk about entropy, and that entropy, like that everything's falling apart essentially.
Yeah,
And I'm
right.
no scientist, so I'm neither is he. So
I was about to
I'm
say,
just
I'm the right audience then. That's fine.
and so, he's not getting into like real scientific theory or anything, but
Sure.
or even philosophical, or I guess more philosophical. Anyway,
Well, yeah, I was about to say, I think that's the best way for me to hear something like that, honestly. I just
yeah,
don't have a very scientific leaning mind. I mean, I like science. I just it's not my
yeah,
forte. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Well, so he's talking about entropy and like the universe, and he uses the analogy of your kitchen and messiness,
Mm-hmm.
and that how there's actually a small number of ways that your kitchen can be neat and an almost infinite number of ways that it can be messy.
Don't
And
I currently know it right this very moment?
I know, I was like, man, he is really reading my book today. And but basically like how if your bowls are stacked in the cupboard, that's neat. If they're
Right.
anywhere else, it's messy. And so
Uh-huh.
there's like an infinite
That's
other number of
yes.
places that all those
Oh,
things could be. And doesn't it make you feel crazy to think about that?
yes.
And we're like fighting that, or at least I know you and I are in terms of kitchens, but
Yes.
um, fighting that entropy all the time, trying to put it back in its place and make it less messy. But
Yeah.
the universe tends toward that messiness and that like breaking everything down.
Yes.
So we're really just at one with the universe, I think, is why we have
Oh my
messy
gosh.
kitchens.
I let's go with that. And also, I'm gonna need a break to take all of this in. I'm just kidding, but yeah, my mind is spinning a little bit. I
Yeah.
think that's cool.
Yeah, it was a very good analogy. And he started talking about it, I was like, okay, this is simplifying it. And then,
Hmm.
he goes into all of these other things, like if you then think about all of the kitchens and all of the houses and all of the multiple universes that there are all at the same time. And,
Right.
anyway.
Oh man. Yeah.
But I do want to say that, the books themselves are not unreachably intellectual or anything. They're very readable and very creepy and interesting. And so I wouldn't, I don't want people to think that, oh, well, this is a book about science and entropy. It's
Right.
not. It's about these characters and
Yeah,
how
applying
they're,
that to a story.
yeah. And so in Raw Shark texts, a guy wakes up and finds a note, and it's written from the first Eric Sanderson, which is him.
Mm-hmm.
But he says, if you're reading this, then I'm already gone, meaning the first one.
Oh gosh.
And then to contact the doctor and that she'll know what to do, and like gives him specific instructions because he has absolutely no memory of anything.
And that's not what you want to hear from yourself when you don't remember anything.
I mean, I think we've probably all had a bad night or two, but no, we don't. No.
Right.
Never to that extreme.
Definitely.
And then in Maxwell's Demon, the new one that's coming out, the main character is like a failed writer, and his father was an extremely famous writer, so he kind of lived in his shadow. And they grew apart, and then so they're not close, or hadn't been close for a very long time.
Right.
But he says that he's at home and he hears the phone ring, and he goes to the answering machine, and it's far away in the house, and so he's kind of straining to hear it, so he's not 100% sure, but he hears his father's voice asking if he's there.
Oh my gosh.
And so he calls the phone company, and they say no call came through just then at that time. And then he reveals that his father's been dead for 7 years, and that's why he's freaking out.
That's such a great setup.
Yeah. And then of course he's talking about the entropy thing and all of that, but I haven't finished it. In fact, I was telling you that I started to get back into it last night, and I was like, no, this is not a late night type of book. I don't need to.
Do I want to sleep tonight? Or... Yeah.
Not that it's scary. It's just, it's thought provoking and weighty. It's heavy. So anyway, definitely recommend. I'm so excited. I like jumped up and down when I saw that he had a new book coming out.
Well, and it just sounds like, from what you were telling me, it sounds like he still got it. And that's just always so delightful, coming from any artist that you have loved and admired in the past.
Oh, yeah. That has not always been the case.
Exactly. No.
With Paul Auster. Like, I
see.
fell out of love with Paul Auster, but...
that is a great story.
But anyway, so it made me think about some books that I had read back from that era, or that period of my life, and that are still really like central to me. And one is White Noise by Don DeLillo, and he's on a par with Paul Auster. Like, most people compare the two of them; they're about the same age. Both, New York authors that were like splashy big time guys. And White Noise is hard to describe, but it's about a professor who this happening sort of converges over this little college town where he works, and I can't really explain it more than that, because you have to kind of go with the flow. And it's from he wrote it in the 80s, and I read it, probably early 2000s, late 90s. And so I had just gotten out of college, and so it sort of resonated, and I was in grad school, and I knew that world, I was familiar with it. Yes. And it's really good, and it has a tinge of pandemic type situation, because it's hazardous, this cloud that comes. Yeah, so I would highly recommend that. And then Another one that as I was perusing my shelves, was right next to it, and I was like, oh man, I need to reread this one too. Was The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay by Michael Chabon.
Mhm.
And it's hard to describe this one too, although this one's a little more straightforward. It's about these two men, they're cousins, I think, and Cavalier is Jewish, and he's also like an escape artist, Houdini type guy.
Uh-huh.
And so he escapes.
That's a fun character. Yeah.
Yeah, he escapes during the war, comes to the United States, and um, meets up with his cousin Clay,
Hmm.
and they are basically two fictive, obviously, but they're at the beginning of comic books. So
Uh-huh.
they're like some of the first creators of comics, which is not what you thought that was going to go to.
Did not see that coming.
Exactly.
But that's cool. Yeah.
But it's a big, like, it's, sweeping novel about, you know, getting out of Nazi Prague, and
Yeah.
then coming to Brooklyn, and then you're on the ground floor of creating this whole new form of art, and then um it
I think that sounds cool. It kind of reminds me of not really, but just in the way like didn't see that coming kind of thing. Like when I started reading Station 11, which
mm-hmm.
many of us know. Like I just that was a story too that had a lot of stories and went a lot of places I didn't expect it to go.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
I love a story like that.
Oh, it's really good. And then of course, they've got the characters that they create, and then how they compete with other creators at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and then the politics that's all tied up within all of that, and that time period. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just really good. And the author, um, Chabon, is also just brilliant. But
Mm-hmm.
that's one of my favorite books of his. And then I came across another book that was from several years ago, called S.
Uh-huh.
And it's by Doug Dorst and J.J. Abrams of Lost fame.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
And it is an amazing book. Did I talk about this one before? No, I
I
don't
was
think.
about to say, I feel like there was something that J.J. Abrams was associated with that you've talked about,
Maybe so.
and I can't remember.
Well, anyway, if I forgive me if I've discussed it before, but I'm going to repeat it because
That's okay. I have a terrible memory, so not bothering me.
but it's basically it's a book, but it's also sort of a piece of art, because it's a book that's supposed to be a novel, but it's not
Hmm.
a real novel. They wrote it,
Hmm.
it's like written by a fictional character. And then there's text that looks like handwritten text in all the margins of these two characters who communicate to each other through this library book by writing back and forth to each other. And then,
Oh, I
yeah.
again, I don't know if this sounds familiar because I want it to or not, but either way, that's really cool. I think that's fun.
Yeah. And then also stuck inside the book, and this is how you buy it and bring it home, and experience it, are like some letters and postcards and photographs and um, telegrams and just all kinds of stuff that they're doing research basically on this
Uh-huh.
mysterious author. And so the book is by this fictional mysterious author, and they're writing back and forth about how they're trying to uncover the secrets of his life. And so they like actually go to, I think one of them goes to Brazil, and like finds places where he stayed, and finds like these little elements of things that
Mm-hmm.
he's left, behind,
Yeah.
and then stuck it all in this book. And so it was, I mean, I was so amazed when this book came out, and I thought, wow, that is just, it's
I
not,
mean,
it's not a
a
good
a
library
book
book.
with right. I was about to say a book with props is
Yeah.
definitely one to own rather than
Yes.
yeah get from the library. But How fun.
Yeah. So I have a copy I think I want to give away as
Oh
a
yeah.
prize. So we'll revisit that once I figure out what's the best way to do that. But um, anyway, it is just like, I mean, all the paper of the things that are like put in there, there's like a letter that's written on a legal pad. And so it's like yellow legal pad long paper.
Uh-huh.
It's folded up. And then another like letter that's an old letter and the paper's really delicate and fragile. And
Ooh.
it's just
Like
like,
somebody put a lot of thought and work into this.
yes.
Oh, that's
Anyway,
neat.
yeah,
That's fun.
super cool. Um, and then, well, what have you been getting into? And then I think that's all the books that I have for this week. So,
Yeah, I mean,
oh
if
wait,
you
no,
want
I
to
have one more. Sorry.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. You're fine.
That would be I Capture the Castle by Dodie Smith. And there's a movie of it.
Okay.
And I actually saw the movie first, I think. And
Oh,
Henry Cavill is in it,
who is
Superman.
he? Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes. And when he's young, so he's like a young guy when he's in
Okay.
that. But it's a funny movie, and the book is also it's great, and it's basically about this family that's really eccentric, and the father is a writer who had some success, but he has writer's block,
Uh-huh.
and the mother is like an artist model and an artist, and um, like gardens in the nude and stuff. They're just like really wild, and they live in the British countryside. And he's taken a lease out, like a 40-year lease out on a castle.
Ooh.
But since he has writer's block, they're having to start selling the furniture to eat
Oh
because
man.
they don't have any money. And so anyway, and then it takes a whole twist into like Jane Austen territory when the lords of the manor or whatever, there's a new family that inherits that place that's their landlords basically.
Uh-huh.
And so there's two daughters in the eccentric family and two sons in the other
Oh.
family, and so there's all kinds of
Yeah, look at
shenanigans
that.
there. But it's very much like a Jane Austen thing, except with these kooky characters that are a little more modern and
Yeah,
mid-century.
and the fact that you saw the movie first, I mean, I don't think I have ever seen a movie and then read the book and I don't know, enjoyed that experience.
Yeah, yeah,
You
that's pretty
know,
rare.
I'm always like, like the book is good, but I wish I had read it first so that this was all fresh.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, the fact that you did it in that order, I think says a lot about the story. That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, I would highly recommend both of them. And then it's not, as you can probably tell, it sounds very different from the other stuff that I typically read.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I was sort of um, I don't know, being like it reminded me, even though I read it as probably an older teenager in my 20s,
Uh-huh.
maybe. Well, no, I would have been in my 20s. Um, it reminded me of the kind of imagination that I had as a girl, where
Right.
like living in this castle,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's kind of dilapidated, that seemed like the most fun way
Yes.
to spend your time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not
There's
like a pristine castle. It's like a medieval crumbly castle. And
right. But there's still beautiful mystery in that. And when you're
yeah.
young, that is exciting.
Oh yeah.
Now I'm just thinking about the leaks and that you would have to deal with.
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Like right now, I that the thought of that, and it would be cold. It would be so cold.
Yes.
No, not interested. But it reminded me. I guess it made me think about how I thought as a kid, and
Yeah. Oh,
it was nice.
I love when those feelings come bubbling up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Okay, so I'll cede the floor to you.
No, I mean, I was gonna sort of pivot into television
Yeah,
if we're ready to ride that train.
yeah.
Last night on Hulu, I started watching Mr. Mayor. It's
Oh yeah.
Tina Fey's new show, and she strikes again. It is so hilarious. Just it's almost like, I don't know if anybody, did you watch 30 Rock?
Oh yes.
Okay, yes, I adore 30 Rock. And this is kind of like, you know, LA 30 Rock. 30 Rock in
Mm.
LA, because it's got all of the, I don't know, all of the Los Angeles tropes and the different people and the, you know, the inside jokes that you understand without, having lived there. Um, but it's so hilarious. Ted Danson is, he's just, won the mayoral election, and he, I think, didn't like, nobody expected him to win. Something happens that, and I sort of missed out at the very beginning on how he actually won, but it was kind of a surprise to everyone. And even his chief of staff is kind of like, well, crap, why did I work so hard to get him elected? Because now he's actually elected and he's going to make me look like an idiot. But there are just some great characters. Holly Hunter is in it. She plays his deputy mayor. And
She hasn't been in anything in a while, and I love her.
no, I adore Holly Hunter. I didn't know that well, I guess in Raising Arizona, she's pretty funny in Raising
Yeah,
Arizona.
yeah.
But other than that, I feel like she's great at playing like the stuffy lady.
Mm-hmm.
And she is not the stuffy lady in this. I mean, she is hilarious. She's this like LA hippie who, like, she doesn't own a car. She only rides a bike. And it's almost like a Leslie Knope, like a hippie LA Leslie Knope. She's
Mm-hmm.
super, she loves LA. She loves politics. And it kind of looks like she's going to kind of be the one that's really running the show. Um, and then Bobby Moynihan, he was on SNL, I feel like
Oh
briefly,
yeah.
but it might have been longer. I don't, and he was funny, but never really stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's the speechwriter, and he's hilarious. I feel like he was supposed to be in the sitcom world in the first place. He is really thriving. So I can't say enough great things so far. The first 4 episodes are out on Hulu, 4 or 5. So I'm really excited that Tina Fey's still doing her thing and making me so proud and making me laugh.
Yeah, that's on my list. I just hadn't started it because, I like to save them up until I can just watch.
Yes. And they're, 20-minute episodes, and we went through them way too quickly. So I do recommend maybe waiting until they add up a little bit more.
Yeah.
But anyway, I loved that. On a very different note, I started watching The Crown again. I watched the first 2 seasons like back to back, and then when the third season came out, I watched like the first episode and just, I don't know, couldn't get into it. Well, my sister did get back into it, and she would not leave me alone. She was like, you have to watch it again, and she was talking about it nonstop, and so I was like, fine. So I started watching it, and I loved the third season. There's so much history that I didn't know about, and I do love that about this show. And in general, it's really good at making you loathe and love someone at the same time. All of these different characters. But now I'm on season 4. And Princess Diana has made her entrance, and now I'm kind of nervous about watching it because we all know
Yeah.
where that goes, and it's honestly kind of hard to watch. Just poor thing, and um I mean, I do want to watch it. I think I'm gonna have to kind of shift my mindset for the rest of the 4th season, but in any case, it's a beautifully done show. I do recommend it. But I'm scared right now. Have
Yeah.
you said that you watched it, right? But had a hard time.
I watched the first season.
That's right.
And I don't know. I never have had that big of a fascination with the royal family.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I mean, the acting was good and it was beautiful, and that there was intriguing elements of it. But it might be one of those things that I revisit, but it just
Yeah,
hasn't called to me lately.
and I honestly, I don't blame you one bit. And even like Nick he had a hard time. He didn't watch the first season with me when I started it. But then when I had the third season on, he came in and sat down and kind of hinted that he would like me to start waiting for him before I move on. So, I think that the first season is it focuses a lot on her relationship with Philip and that their love story. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, the third season has been my favorite so far. I'll say that. Moving on to a movie that we watched recently. It's no big names. In fact, can you help me with the guy's name that we were talking about? He's on Search Party. Do we know his
It's
name?
something like John Paul Anderson or something real.
Let's
I mean,
go with
really,
that.
yeah, it's something
Um,
like that. But yeah, he's in
yeah,
Search Party.
yeah, and it's a young couple. I don't know, young like relatable couple, I would say. They decide to take a trip out in the cabin in the woods, and so they're away from uh I don't know, the rest of the world and oblivious to what's going on. And while they're away, some aliens attack the earth and begin to take over. Oh, and they've also agreed to turn their phones off and not look at them for the entirety of
Of
this
course.
trip.
That's why
Right.
you
So
can never do that. That's just
exactly, because when you
public service
do,
announcement. Don't
yeah,
turn your phones off.
because look what happens.
Yeah, it's unsafe to turn off your phone.
Right, right. But it was such a great combination of sort of, I don't know, terrifying thoughts at like, oh my gosh, what if that happened? Because I was telling you, they're a young couple. It made me think of, if Nick and I were in this situation. And but then they do a great job of kind of I don't know, making you laugh even at sort of sad and inappropriate parts. But I don't know, I think that's the way that I like to swallow those pills.
Mm-hmm.
So and it had a really an ending that I did not see coming, and I love that
Mm-hmm.
with anything that I'm reading or watching. It was just I really appreciated it for its originality, and it made us laugh, and I hadn't heard of it. So go watch Save Yourselves. I think it's on Amazon, but I think I've seen it on a couple of other streaming services.
Oh, I'll be watching it.
Yeah, no, and I'm interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, and I'm watching season 3 of Search Party now too, which is on HBO, I think.
Yes, I need to get back to Search Party.
Yeah, and I think there's like 6 episodes out, but they're releasing 2 or 3 at a time, which is nice.
That is nice of
It's
them.
very generous, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just gone utterly bonkers. It's just they doubled down so hard
Oh my
on
gosh, because
how crazy it is.
the second season started to stress me out a little bit. I'll be
Mm-hmm.
honest. I was like, what is happening now?
Yeah,
But
you can't really take it as a serious thing anymore. It's very,
right.
yeah, it's just off the wall.
Right.
Well, the last thing I want to mention, it kind of ties into all the stuff that we read and watch, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you have this, but I have it so bad, and I didn't know there was a name for it, but it's called revenge bedtime procrastination. Have you heard
Nope.
of this?
Nope. But do
So
tell.
I have it. It's basically if you are stressed out or you're doing a lot during the day or you feel like your time isn't your own or, if
Uh-huh.
you're just
Uh-huh.
having a hard time, then you stay up later at night
Yep.
because you want to do more things that are things that you want to do.
Yes.
And my
Yes.
whole life, I've found myself doing
Yes.
this.
Yes. I've been doing it. I'll go through periods where I do it harder than other times, but I've been
Yeah.
really in that cycle right now.
Yeah. Whereas other people are like, I'm stressed. I'm glad to be home from work. I'm just going to, go to sleep. I'm like,
And
no, I want to consume this book, and I want to watch this show, and I want to talk to my friends, and I'm going to stay up until 2 a.m. and
yes, yes.
It becomes a
And then
vicious
hate my
cycle.
life in the morning, but I'm gonna do it all over again. So
Yeah.
back off.
Yeah. And so it's like revenge against, the world, but you're really just doing it to yourself.
Right.
So anyway, I came across that as a concept the past week or so, and I was like, yep, okay, so there's a name for what I do all the time.
Yep. Oh man. Well, I'm glad to put a name with a face, so to speak.
Just I don't recommend it. Just put the book down, whatever, turn it off.
Yeah,
don't listen to the podcast. Just get some sleep.
Get a good night's sleep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, on that note, have a great weekend.
Yeah.
And
until next Friday.
Yeah, we'll be back here next week.
Bye, y'all. Crystal, you know when you desperately need a teddy bear-shaped cake pan to bake a teddy bear-shaped cake?
Emily, don't I ever know that feeling. And then I just end up making a plain old boring round cake. It's the worst.
Ugh. Or when you need to sew a dress for the party that requires a teddy bear-shaped cake, but you don't have a sewing machine or a pattern, and you don't know how to sew.
Ugh, I hate when that happens.
And of course, we all know what it's like when your bike chain breaks while you're riding your bike to that party. Well, when all three of those scenarios happen to me, I visit the Library of Things here at the Public Library. Our collection now includes non-traditional library items such as cake pans in every shape imaginable, a sewing machine, and a bike repair kit. And we've recently added hotspots and webcams.
And more new things are added all the time. And we even take suggestions if we don't have something that you want. So head on over to your Nacogdoches Public Library for all your not-so-common needs.
Even if you don't need to bake a cake, sew a dress, or fix a bike.
You're listening to Crystal and Emily on Love Your Shelf, the best librarian podcast in the extensive and highly competitive field of librarian podcasts.